What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Passable Ball Knowledge, where we give you all the information that you will ever need about passable balls. My name is
Yep.
Sam. That is Aaron. Uh, we are here to talk today. It is a Black Monday episode, the day that everybody kind of talks about. Aaron, how are you doing?
About as average as you can be for a Falcons fan right now after yesterday.
That's
You
fair.
know,
That's fair.
yeah. It's hard to, it's hard to think about, I'm super excited for next season, but I won't be able to see my team for another however many months, 8 months or until at least the preseason starts, you know.
Hey, you just look for next year. I'm a Seahawks fan, so I never had a chance to make the playoffs this week. We're going to be
Yeah.
breaking some of that down right now, actually. Let's talk about yesterday's big games and then we'll get to the playoff discussion here. Yesterday, the game that everybody was excited about turned out to be a big stinker.
Yeah.
The Lions beat the brakes off of the Minnesota Vikings, which I did not expect to happen. The Vikings were the hotter team, they were the healthier team, and the Lions ran circles around them.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold just looked extremely out of his depth. He just didn't look ready for the moment. He was high on all of his passes. He just was never truly settled into the game. Credit to the Lions defense. Aaron Glenn is gonna be a very popular coaching candidate. We'll talk about him as we get into the Black Monday kind of segment here. But for the playoffs, the Lions secure that one seed. Minnesota secures the five. Lions will get the bye. Minnesota will head to LA this weekend to take on the Rams, who, because my Seahawks beat them yesterday, dropped down to the four seed. So, Aaron, you're
Yep.
looking at these playoff games, I'm sure. Uh, what are the games that are catching your eye?
Um, I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not like crazy excited for any of these games this weekend. Um, But I think the best games here are it's always like Packers Eagles. I think that's going to be a great game, even with Christian Watson out for the rest of for the rest of the playoffs. Um, I think that's still be a great game. But I think Ravens Steelers is probably going to be a great game. And then yeah, a lot of these games just don't interest me. Like even like the mid seed games that are usually kind of competitive. In the NFC you have Vikings Rams. I don't expect that to be any type of close. Um, the Vikings are only 1 point favorites going into this game somehow. Um, but I mean, yeah, I mean, none of these games are crazy interesting, but I'm sure there's probably going to be uh, something interesting that happens over this week. I think Bucks Commanders is probably going to be a good game. Um, but yeah, I'm just looking towards you know, the divisional rounds right now.
I feel that the NFL is really screwing us over, saying, "Hey, the first game you're gonna get is Texans Chargers,"
Yeah, no,
which it's going to be the most boring watch ever. I mean, we are talking about uh, Jim Harbaugh, who is a great coach,
yeah,
but he's like a I'm going to run the ball 30 times type of coach
and play great defense.
and play great defense. That game is going to be
Yeah,
like 20-14, and I just
yeah,
don't care. I don't care. I think the games like Bills Broncos, I think that's going to be a blowout. Credit to the Broncos for putting together a good year. There's a reason why Buffalo are 9-point favorites in that game.
yeah.
Uh Ravens Steelers, I'm kind of excited for because they are rivals. It should be a hard fought good game, but at the same time, like
Steelers
who
are looking really bad
yeah.
right now.
And once again, that's a boring team. The Steelers are a boring
Yep.
team. Uh I think Bucks Commanders is the game that I'm really excited for.
Yeah.
Uh I don't know. Baker is kind of playing like the MVP right now. Uh
Mm,
well, outside of Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, I think Baker has a good argument to be the number three. A kind of
yeah, that's
like
fair.
it's him and Burrow and like Saquon and Goff, I guess, all in that kind of
Yeah.
conversation. I think we're gonna hear a lot of talk about Baker. It's Baker versus Jaden Daniels. That game is gonna be really fun, and I think there's a reason why the NFL is like, "Hey, we're gonna put that on Sunday Night Football." because they know that these are teams that people are going to have fun watching. The Bucks have a bunch
Yeah.
of fun players. Like I really like Bucky Irving. I really like Mike Evans. He's been playing well. Baker is slinging the rock, and then you got Jaden Daniels and Terry, and I mean, I'm really excited about that game. I don't think we'll pick them in this podcast episode, but we maybe
No.
as we get closer to the games, we will end up picking those games. But yeah, the playoffs are set. The general consensus here is like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
There are games that are like, all right, these are gonna be fun games, but like, there's not one game that is gonna be like a behemoth type win. I mean, let's assume, right, that all the higher seeds win. Actually, no, we'll say that all the favored teams win, right? That would
Yeah.
mean that the Chargers would head to Kansas City to play the Chiefs in the divisional, with the Ravens going to Buffalo. Now that's a game that
That's
I
a good
will
game. That's a
that
good
I
game.
will tune in for that game. That game could decide the MVP, if we're being honest. I
Yeah.
don't think that's a crazy thing to say. And then that would leave the Vikings heading to Detroit and Tampa Bay heading to Philadelphia, which I also think would be a fun game.
Yeah.
Um, I think the NFL is really excited because I think this is probably team by team wise, this is probably the deepest playoff set we've looked at. Especially if
Yeah.
you consider last year, the 7 seed in the AFC was the Mason Rudolph led Steelers. I
Yeah.
don't think anyone was looking forward to that game. But now if you look in the AFC, you're like, oh, the Broncos are playing good football. I think that there's gonna be an opportunity for a lot of interesting games. Um, I mean, is there any, if those scenarios were to play out, right? And we're talking Kansas City, LA, we're talking Buffalo, Baltimore, we're talking Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, and Minnesota,
Yeah.
Detroit. What game are you looking forward to there?
I mean, it has to be Ravens Bills. I mean, there's no other game that the fans and the NFL wants more than two of the five, absolute just like stars of the league, um, in one game. And that game would just be so good. I mean, I do think Bucks Eagles would be a good game because the Bucks are kind of just in like every game. That's just kind of like how it goes.
Mhm.
Um, that's kind of how it goes usually. But yeah, I mean, but then you have like Lions Vikings, which if it plays out the same, it doesn't look to be a great game. But I'm sure they're going to make adjustments and everything like that. Um, and then the dud is Chargers Chiefs. It's
Who
just kind of
cares?
a whatever. Don't really have some fan base right now. You're a Chargers fan. Um,
Move the mic closer to your mouth. I just got some psychedelic ass audio into the
yeah.
into my headphones just now. I just got like some crazy stuff.
All right.
We're we're
Um,
we're we're, we're, we're working as we go, guys. We're working as we go.
yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah.
You're getting ball knowledge. That's all you want, right? You're getting ball
Yeah.
knowledge.
Passable.
Um, Passable. It's passable ball. Let's get to the story that everybody's been talking about today. Black Monday has arrived. Kind of disappointing compared to other Black Mondays, right? I mean, assuming that this is it, there will be 5 head coaching openings. We'll be talking about New England. We'll be talking about New Orleans. We'll be talking about Jacksonville, the Jets, and the Bears. I think both of us, at least off the podcast, we were discussing, hey, Antonio Pierce, maybe he's gone. We
It
were
doesn't look that way right now. I mean,
well, obviously, right now, I'd be pretty surprised if he goes.
yeah.
Actually, um, we were talking, hey, maybe Dable is fired. Maybe
Yeah.
there's a surprise and Shanahan is fired. Maybe Mike McCarthy's fired. None of those happened. Mike McCarthy might leave the Cowboys, but he's not fired.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, what coaching firing just kind of struck you the most? And it doesn't have to be the ones from today. It could be ones from throughout the season. Which one going into the year were you most surprised about?
Um, I like if we're talking about coach firings, I was probably the most surprised by Saleh. Uh, just judging off of how early they fired him. They fired him in what like week like 6 or something like that. Um, yeah, so that's kind of my my big surprise, and I'm not surprised whatsoever about Bears just kind of fell apart. Patriots just a pretty awful team this year. Um, Jags train wreck, and then the Saints. When you go on a however many game skid that they went on, you just don't keep your job, obviously in that. Um, so yeah,
Yeah. I don't know. I thought we were gonna get more. I really did. I
yeah,
mean, Doug Peterson was a given.
yeah,
I could have told you 10 weeks ago that Doug Peterson was going to get fired. Gerard Mayo kind of sucks. It kind of
yeah,
sucks. It never felt like he was given much of a chance. The team was a wreck this year. You really only have Drake May, who like went out there and was doing anything of value, and now we're talking about like, oh, he went 3-14, so we had to fire him. But like, there were other coaches that did poorly. That Dable kept his job, and that team had
yeah.
far higher expectations than the
That team was
Patriots.
horrible.
I don't know. I mean, I think Gerard Mayo kind of got gypped. I think that Gerard
Yeah,
Mayo has the potential to be a good coach. I think he has the potential. I think the players like him. I think he has experience in the locker room, and he's been a leader, especially when he played with New England. I was just kind of I felt like he was treated unfairly. I think if you
yeah,
give him a legitimate chance with a legitimate roster, or at least not even like I'm not, and obviously I could say, oh well, if you give a coach a Super Bowl roster, he's gonna contend. Like that's an obvious thing to say,
yeah,
but at the same time, I like if you gave him a team that like was borderline like 7-10, I feel like he could have gotten that team there, and like this team had juice,
yeah.
and it just kind of fell apart. And maybe that's because the fans kind of revolted. But you're telling me Giants fans didn't revolt? Like you're
No,
telling
yeah.
me
Giants. Yeah,
Raiders fans didn't revolt?
yeah. I mean, like I don't know. This might not mean a lot, but I was curious. I'm looking at Belichick's first year. He went 5-11 first year. I'm obviously not saying that Belichick and Gerard Mayer are on the same like caliber of coaching,
He's
but
from the tree. He's from the tree.
yeah, yeah, he's from the tree, and then next year he goes on to win the Super Bowl. Not saying that that means anything, but I'm saying you have a rookie quarterback, you have a player's coach, you just gotta keep him. So I was surprised, but look, I was like surprised in the moment, but looking back at it now, I wasn't super surprised because as the season kind of ran on, it just started to get worse and worse and more of like a train wreck every week. Um, but I mean, I'm not a supporter of that firing, I don't think.
I'm not either. And I don't know how you feel. I hate how quick owners are to do one and dones now.
Yeah,
It's annoying to me. If you take every coach at his first year, think about all like the really good coaches that had bad first years. You won't know why good coaches have bad first years, because good teams don't fire head coaches.
yeah,
It's that simple. Good teams do not fire head coaches. Bad teams fire head coaches. You plug in a good coach onto the bad team. What is the good coach going to do? Like that is my biggest issue. Like if you look at some of these great coaches' first seasons, I think Kyle Shanahan went like 4-12 in his first year with San Francisco. They've
yeah,
been
they're
to
bad.
they've been to two Super Bowls. And obviously that is just one example, but
I'm pretty sure McVay went 4-12
No,
too.
McVay did well his first year. I remember
Oh, he
that.
did.
Yeah, I think so. I think he did.
No, they went 11-5.
I don't know. I just think it's unfair. Like
Yeah.
I think if we were in a world where like teams tried to be good, the coaches would succeed more. But teams don't try to be good.
Yeah.
It's annoying, and it's a trend that we've seen in sports, in all sports, in basketball and baseball. Teams are consistently just like, I'm all right. I don't really want to be good anymore. And then their coaches are just sacrifices until they finally put something together. Like, and like I just want to throw this out, right? The Patriots have like $140 million or something to spend this offseason.
Yeah.
They have the fourth overall pick.
Yeah.
They have a young, legitimately talented quarterback. And they are going to go out and do some things. I don't know whether they're going to, let's say that they like trade for T Higgins, or they sign T Higgins with that money. They draft a really good offensive lineman. They sign a couple more players here and there that fill out the roster, and then next year Drake May takes a step and they go 9-8.
Yeah.
And let's say Vrabel is the coach, because that's just everybody has been connecting to the Patriots. It's always Vrabel, which makes sense. He'd be a good hire. Vrabel's a great coach.
Yep.
They are going to say, see, the problem was the coach.
Yeah. It's just what's gonna happen.
It's what's going to happen. It's what always happens, and it's because the GMs never want to take ownership for building a suck ass team and then throwing out a rookie head coach and be like, "All right, good luck."
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw out a take for you. I want to see how you feel. If Gerard Mayo got fired, why wasn't Brian Callahan fired in Tennessee?
No idea.
There's
I think.
no
I mean. I think. I
reason.
think. Yeah. And there are certain one and dones that I can understand. The Urban Meyer one and done. Had to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um. But with like all these teams, like they're just like I don't know. It's just it's not it's probably the worst trend um that's going on right now in the NFL. And I think it's something that's just gonna keep becoming more and more common. Um, you know, as the years go on because of social media and the pressure of those GMs and those owners to be good and
to
build a
sell
winning
seats.
team to sell seats exactly. Um, and I think it's just gonna keep happening.
I just hate it. I really don't. I really just don't like it. If you
Yeah.
were to talk about these job openings, Chicago, New Orleans, and the Jets have been known for a while now. If we were to talk about, let's say, let's say that let's say that if we're throwing all five of those job openings out there, and there's no surprise opening, there's maybe McVay retires, maybe Mike McCarthy goes somewhere else. You never know. We're taking all five of those jobs. Let's rank those 1 through 5 together. We're going to make a combined list. We're going to rank them 1 through 5, and we're going to see how we feel. Let's start at 5 and we'll work our way up. Number
I think
five.
for me, I think for me, number five is the Jets right now.
Hmm. Um,
I just think every player seems, angry there. I don't know what it is, not exactly like angry, but it just seems like they just don't want to be there. It seems like a really toxic place to go. I'm a strong believer in Garrett Wilson probably getting traded this offseason. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to retire, which means Devontae Adams might leave slash retire. Um, I don't know if Sauce Gardner is happening or if anything is happening with him. Um, but right now I just don't see really any hope for that team. Unless if they go out and get a really nice draft class, a new quarterback. Um, but even like that, they're not picking very high. They're picking at 7. Um, with already a weak quarterback class, a good first or, good top 10 quarterback just isn't going to fall there.
Yeah, you're not going to get the Cam Wards. You're not going to get the Shadur Sanders.
Yeah.
Um,
Then you're stuck with like Jalen Milrow.
yeah, I mean, if you want to even say that he's going to get there, what if the Giants fall in love with Jalen Milrow? What if those other teams up there are like,
Yeah.
hey, I like Jalen Milrow, like the Raiders. What if the Raiders are like, hey, Jalen Milrow's awesome? Or you know, I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know. I think the Jets are the right five. They have a terrible owner, which really sucks.
Yep.
I think number four has to be New Orleans.
Yep.
That team is
Um,
that team is aging. They're expensive. They are not good. They have no real core player to hang their hat on, which is weird because the Jets have core players to hang their hat on. They have Sauce Gardner, they have Quinnen Williams, they have Garrett Wilson. Like these are like Will McDonald had a huge breakout year for them. These are guys that you can look at and be like, all right, these are pieces of a championship team because objectively they
yeah.
are. The problem is I don't think they're going to be a piece of a championship team on the Jets. Maybe that's just the Jets and like, oh, the Jets could never win, but I
Yep.
don't know. That's just how I feel. I don't think the Jets are ever going to get there. With the Saints, you have nothing.
Yeah.
Like you have Chris
Um,
Olave, who's like
you have,
a pretty good wide receiver. You have
yeah,
like
you have a
Brian
lot.
Brissy.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like on like Cam Jordan's old, Kamara's old, Derek Carr is old. Their offensive line is good but old. Their secondary's old. Demario Davis is old. Like everybody's old as hell on that team. Like
Yeah.
there are still a lot of players on that team from the 2019 non PI call in the NFC Championship.
Yeah. Um, going back to Derek Carr. There is, I mean, how much longer can the Derek Carr experiment go on for? Um,
Not much.
he hasn't been there for a long time, but you sit there as the I don't know who the Saints GM is, but you sit there and ask yourself, is Derek Carr our future, and is he the answer? He's 33 years old. He had a pretty mid-season this year. He didn't throw a lot of picks, but he only played 10 games. Um, and Spencer Rattler, let's be serious with ourselves. He's not.
Spencer
I'm
Rattler is
sorry.
this year's Will Levis.
Yeah, I'm sorry. He's just not anything. And you sit there. They don't have a super high pick. They have the ninth pick after the Panthers and Jets. Um, and unless if you sign some kind of free agent quarterback, whoever's out there this offseason, um, you're not going to get a quarterback this offseason unless you pick someone in the later rounds, which 9 times out of 10 doesn't work. Unless you find like a Brock Purdy kind of thing, or not like Tom Brady, but that type of player that you can find down there. Um, I just don't. There's just not a big. It's not a bright future for the Saints. There's a small window of future, but it's not like a big bright future for them.
Yeah, the problem with the coach there is that I don't see them getting close to winning anytime soon.
Yeah.
And I think that if you're there, you're gonna clean house, you're gonna suck for 2 years, you're gonna get fired, and then you're gonna leave a decent foundation to a new coach. That's the problem. If I was a coach going to New Orleans, I'd say like you got to guarantee me 3 years because this is a
Yeah.
doozy. Like this is a doozy right here.
Yeah,
So
and that's the thing, going back to the one and done thing. You know, Gerard Mayo got stuck with a crappy team, and he's gone. There's just no opportunity to rebuild. But we won't go back into that right now.
yeah,
Um,
for three, I think it's got to be Jacksonville.
yeah,
Of the three left, which is Chicago, New England, Jacksonville. I think Jacksonville has a quarterback. I like Trevor Lawrence. A lot of people don't like Trevor Lawrence. I don't like the contract he got, but I like Trevor Lawrence.
yeah. I
I
think
think
he
they I
has.
think they have good players. Like Josh Allen is a good player. Tyson Campbell is a
Yeah,
good player. They have like
you
legitimate
have
core
Brian Thomas
pieces there.
now.
Brian Thomas is a
Yeah,
star. You have good
Yep.
core pieces there. That team might be good enough to the point where if they get a competent coach and they build up a little bit, they have the fifth overall pick. They have a little bit of money. If they build up a little bit, that team could be right back competing with Houston in that division.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to find consistency with that organization. Um, I believe Trevor Lawrence has had what, three coaches now at this point?
Yeah, because he had Urban Meyer, and then he
Urban
had
Meyer, Doug Peterson, and then
and now he's gonna have. I don't even know who's connected
yeah,
there.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just I do think they have I think they have a much better future uh than the two teams we talked about before, but because we talked about it, you have a franchise quarterback, you have a franchise receiver. Um and then you have pieces to build on the defensive side. Um so I think they're definitely the most interesting team. I feel like they're the biggest like boom or bust team with a new head coach.
I agree. I agree. They're in a good enough. They're in a bad enough division to where they could get back relatively quickly.
Yeah.
They just need a coach that can do it. And like the problem is, I don't
Yeah.
know who wants to go to Jacksonville. It's not a pretty destination. Like Chicago is Chicago. Like it's a big city. Even the Jets is New York. Jacksonville is like the slums of the NFL world. Like if we're being honest, no one
Yeah.
wants to coach there. It was kind of the discussion around Detroit a few years ago when people were like, who even wants to go to Detroit? And then they hired some no name at the time named Dan Campbell, who went on
Yeah.
obviously to be their guy. And so maybe Jacksonville will find their guy. Maybe it's Brian Flores. Maybe it's Aaron Glenn. Maybe Ben Johnson. You can talk him into going there. Got to get
I think you
somebody,
got to get an offensive coach if you're
right?
Jacksonville. Yeah, you have to, you have to fully unlock Trevor Lawrence. He's had solid seasons, but you have to fully, exercise his potential. We've seen in 2022 what he could do. Um, but yeah, I think you got to go out and get an offensive coach. But yeah, I think they're the most interesting team out of all these openings.
Number two. I feel like if you
Patriots.
asked me a week ago, it was obviously the Patriots.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, New England has a lot of money. They have a good pick and they have a quarterback. How much more do you believe in Caleb Williams than you believe in Drake May? Would you say? Like, do you think Caleb Williams is like 1.5 times as good as Drake May?
I do think so. I think he's a better quarterback. He showed more potential this season. Um, given he did have a good team. We did have, a few viable receivers on the team. You obviously have the new Roma Dunze connection. Um, I don't know. I just think the Patriots, it's a tougher build up. Um, so yeah, I,
Yeah.
I, 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 I think it has to be the Patriots. I just think, Chicago is the much more attractive job in my eye.
Well, here's the thing. How are you going to compete in that division if you're Chicago? That's
That's
a
a good
meat
question.
that's a meat grinder of a division, man. Like the you have 3 11+ win teams. When is that door going to open? Because the door is not closing for Detroit anytime soon. It's not closing for the Packers anytime soon. The question is like, do the Vikings regress? But like, I don't think they really regress like that. I don't think they do.
Yeah.
I think they're a good team, and like the Bears, you have to really scratch and claw. I think Drake May is in a similar conversation as Caleb Williams as a quarterback right now. If you want me to be honest, I think he is. I think you have a ton of money. I think you have a really good draft pick. I think this team is about $100 million spent, which they have, and a hit in the first round from being a wild card contender in the AFC. I really think so. I think this team has it. They're a winning organization. They just have to do something, like go for it. And I think if they hire a guy like Vrabel, they will go for it. I think like that's your only option at this point. Like you got to go all in, and you got to get a coach that's willing to go all in and a coach that's experienced enough to go all in. I think Vrabel fits that. I think the Patriots are the best spot right now. I think if you are, especially Mike Vrabel, you know that Robert Kraft likes you. You know that he's going to give you time. You know that you have money. You know that you're going to spend it. You know that you're going to get Drake May a better situation. You're going to get him a better offensive line. You're going to stack up that defense as Mike Vrabel. You're going to stack up that wide receiving room with some money, maybe with a draft pick or two. I really like what's going on in New England on a purely roster perspective. Now, you can talk about whether ownership and Robert Kraft firing someone after his first year, who was one of Robert Kraft's guys. Like Jerron Mayo was a Robert Kraft guy. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
If that's tough. That's going to be a debate I think we're going to have as these jobs get closer, maybe after the first coach gets hired.
Yeah, we'll do that at a different time because I have different opinions. Um,
Yeah. I
about
okay. Yeah.
this.
So we'll move on. We'll move on. On the topic of kind of coach openings, talking about, like what jobs are the best, let's get on to these first year head coach grades. Now that every season, every regular season at least is finished, we can kind of look back and say, hey, how these guys do in their first time around, their first time leading a squad, or at least maybe their first time with their new team. Some of these guys have led teams before. Let's start with, do you want to start good or bad?
Let's start bad.
All right, let's start with Brian Callahan in Tennessee. I think he was one of the first coaches hired. Uh, how are we feeling about big Brian Callahan in Tennessee, finishing with
I
the
think
first overall pick?
I think he is the most boring coach in the league. I don't know a lot about him,
Did you see his rant
but
on
just going
in that press conference that he had?
no.
He had a
What did he
rant
do?
where like one of the reporters called his team soft. He said like players are playing soft, and like he like had like a rant, like he freaked
Oh,
out. Yeah. So that's
good,
really all
good
I
for
know
him.
about him. Yeah, that's all I really know about him.
I mean, I don't like it's hard for me to I mean, I'm just gonna grade it off of just how the team played, and I want to give him an F, I guess.
For a first year, it's
You
got to be
know,
an F.
yeah, I mean, obviously you do end up the one positive coming out of the season is that you end up with the number one pick, and you probably pick a quarterback with that, and then that's where the coaching job really gets started. Um, but he's just a really boring coach. Where did he come from? I don't even
He was
remember where
the
he came
he was the
from.
Bengals OC.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's got to be in that for Brian Callahan.
Yeah. Looking at last year, the Titans went 6-11. Mike Vrabel, who was a Coach of the Year winner, they
Yep.
look at him and they go, "Hey, you know what? You're not
You
getting
don't
it
like that.
done.
Yeah.
Get out of here." They
Terrible
bring in
decision.
they bring in Brian Callahan. They say, "Brian, we like what you did with Joe Burrow. Now go do it with Will Levis." They say, "Hey, you know what? You already got DeAndre Hopkins. You know what? We're gonna go out. We're gonna get you Calvin Ridley. How do you like that? Nice, right? Then we're gonna
Yeah,
get you J.C.
Calvin Ridley.
Latham. We're gonna get you J.C. Latham in the draft out of Alabama, the guard. How you like that? All right, now go be better than 6-11." And he ends up at 3-14.
Yeah.
That is just horrible. Just
Yeah, that's pretty rough.
just an absolutely horrible team and a horrible season. It's got to be an F, because they they
Yeah,
they
I mean,
tried. They tried to be good. They went out and they got Calvin Ridley. They added pieces, and they were still horrible. Like it's got
yeah.
to be an F.
Um, yeah, I mean, obviously you don't have a good team. You have what a probably bottom five starter or a 1 point starter in the league with Will Levis. Um, yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, it wasn't a recipe for success for his first year. But I am interested to see what he can do next year with probably a new quarterback and a new look team.
Likely Cam Ward, although we'll see who it
Yeah,
is. We'll talk about that also in the coming podcasts. The next one is going to be let's go to my boy Antonio Pierce. Let's go to Antonio Pierce in Vegas. Not
I
not the year they wanted to have, but at the same time, could you really blame them? Like the team was really rough. Like I'm not. I think it's different for the Raiders because they weren't trying to be good.
yeah.
But I don't know. I don't think it could be an F. I don't think it could be an F. I do
I
think
mean,
what they finished 5-12 last year. Do I have that right?
I believe so.
They finished 5-12. Not great. No, they finished 4-13. Not great. I don't think it's F. You got Brock Bowers. He was a bright spot.
Yeah,
Maybe all you need is a quarterback in there, and you can get something done. I think it's a D. I think it's a D.
yeah,
That's how I feel about it. I think it's a
yeah.
D.
I mean,
Um, Not good.
is he like a player's coach at all?
He was a player, so
Okay,
yes,
so
he,
the
he
players
was
do
a
like him.
he was a linebacker for the Giants.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I'll give him like a D minus. I just don't see see a lot going on for that team in the future.
yeah. Um.
Let's go to
Well, well. Let's get the obvious one out of the way. We just went on a whole Gerard Mayo rant.
yeah,
He will end up being a F, maybe an F minus. He got fired, so
yeah.
we'll get him out of the way. Let's move on to an
Do I?
interesting name.
But, but here's the thing before we move on. I don't think he was the worst coach out of all these. I don't think he was the worst coach out of all the new hires. But I think team performance wise, he was probably the worst, or the second worst behind Brian Callahan.
That's fair. I would agree
Um,
with that.
but yeah, let's move on to the next person.
Dave Canales, the Panthers head coach. Early in the year, this was looking like a fat F. Now
Yep.
they finished the year a little hot. They started to feel themselves a little bit. They finished 5-12.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a C minus.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Things
was
did
thinking C minus.
things did not go well. Can't say they went well, but for the first time in a long time, they got things to work. In games, they got things to work. They beat the Cardinals. They beat the Falcons. Bryce Young played well in both of those games. Those are pretty respectable teams. And they won those
Yeah.
games. And they were well coached. They played well. Uh, you know, they they did really. I gotta give him credit.
Yeah.
He's also very young.
Um.
I think he's like 30.
Yeah. I think there is a lot of hope in that Panthers room. Bryce Young finished the season out with 7 touchdowns, no picks in his last 3 games. Um, I think he will. I think next year they'll be a 7-10 to 8-9 team. Um, if I were to say, and but yeah, I would give him like a C minus. I think that's a really fair grade for him. Um, good, not great.
All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. So now we are past all the stinky ass hirings and we're getting to the
Yeah,
hirings of teams that did something this year. Let's talk about Jim Harbaugh. Let's talk about Jim Harbaugh. The Chargers made the playoffs. They were the fifth seed, correct?
yep,
They were the fifth seed. They finished 11-6. They had a better point differential than the Chiefs. They played pretty well against the Chiefs. Justin Herbert had a great year. They ran the ball. Their defense was great. This has to be an A.
Yeah.
This has to be an A. I'm not saying it's an A plus. It's not like they were dominant, but they were really good. This has to be an A. I think he they did well. They I like Jim Harbaugh a lot. How do you feel?
Um, yeah. I think an A is a good grade for him. Very, they're not the most flashy team in the league. Um, but they get the job done, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Um, I think he's going to be their coach for a long time. I think he's going to be there for a good amount of years. But yeah, I think this year was a great year for him and just like the Chargers and the players and the fans overall.
What do you think about let's move on to our next one here. I think this one might be the perfect coach hire. Let's talk about Dan Quinn going to
Yeah.
Washington. Kind of, he was seen as Seattle got Mike McDonald. Washington wanted Mike McDonald. They had to go to Dan Quinn. It was kind of seen as like, this is
Emergency hire.
emergency hire. It's boring. No one cares. They were great when no one thought they were going to be great. They were great.
Yeah.
They are the sixth seed, I believe, in the NFC. Um, they he has to get an A plus. He has to, right? I
Yeah.
mean, Aaron, as a
They're
former
fun.
Falcons fan, how do you feel watching
Yeah.
Dan Quinn just light it
Well,
up?
current Falcons fan.
But yeah,
Um,
former
um,
Falcons coach is what I meant to say.
yeah.
Dan Quinn. How do you feel
Um,
watching him light it up?
I'm happy for him, I guess. I'm
That's not
okay.
that
Yeah,
is
I'm like,
not enthusiastic.
well, yeah. I
Like
mean,
good
well,
for him.
yeah,
Like I
yeah.
don't.
Good for him. He was a definitively bad coach for the Falcons. For those last couple years when we started to get real bad. Um,
How do you feel that
I don't
how
really.
do you feel that of the two former Falcons head coaches that you could have hired, you hired the worst one?
What do you mean? Raheem Morris. I mean, we weren't gonna get Dan Quinn back. We weren't gonna fire Dan Quinn, have 3 years of mediocrity with Arthur Smith, and then be like, yeah, come back, Dan, because like
Yo,
it did end on like pretty bad terms. Like he got fired mid-season. Um,
Dan, do you remember the
I mean,
glory days? Do you remember the glory days, Dan? Come back. Come back.
remember 2016.
Oh
Um,
God, do you remember when Julio went crazy? Come back.
yeah,
We'll bring Julio back
we have
too.
Drake, we have Drake London now.
You guys should
Um,
go out and sign Julio and just run it back.
yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, I, yeah, I don't really have a lot to say, but good for him, I guess.
Good for him. Good for him.
Still,
He did well.
still not a fan of him.
Really. So you have animosity towards the Dan Quinn era.
I do have animosity towards Dan Quinn because other than 2016, we were never really like that good with him. I mean, like we were solid, but
This is like hating
we were
somebody.
never like.
He took you to a Super Bowl, man.
No, no, no. He took us to a Super Bowl where, that thing happened. Um,
But is that his fault or is that Kyle Shanahan's fault?
it's Kyle Shanahan's fault, forever have that against Kyle Shanahan. Um, but yeah, I mean, good good for Dan.
All right.
Good for Dano.
All right. All right. I respect that. A plus. A plus higher.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. It is a good hire though, I will say.
Let's go to all right. So we saved our two favorite teams for last. Aaron, as a morning Falcons fan, do you want to talk about Raheem first, or do you want to save him for last?
I'll talk about him first. I don't hate Raheem as much as a lot of other Falcons fans hate him. He stepped into the defense. When Kirk was having his whole slump and our defense got a lot better, um, after he stepped in with Jimmy Lake at DC. Um, I do think he was a good hire. I don't think he's a bad hire at all. Um, but I did. I his press conferences are so annoying because he never says anything. He doesn't say anything. He just goes like, he's just like they'll be like, what are your thoughts on how teams play? And he's like, we look at film and we see what we do, and that's what we do. And it's just like I know that's how you're supposed to be trained, as like a coach and like media trained, but give us any kind of information that you can regarding like if anything's gonna change or whatever. He didn't say like the when Kirk got benched, he didn't say anything. We just put out a tweet on Twitter that was like Michael Penix is the new starting quarterback for the Falcons.
It's just funny to
Um,
imagine. It's just funny to imagine Raheem just being like, well, Kirk went out there. We decided that Kirk wasn't doing it, so we went a different way.
that's what he said. That's exactly what he said. He had a press conference like a day later, and that's what he said. Um, but yeah, I mean, I have more of a vendetta towards like the coordinators than I do towards Terry himself.
All
But
right.
I'll give the hire a B. I think it's a B higher.
All right. I would say it's a C plus.
Um, oh, okay.
Well, sorry for thinking that you guys should have won a division where the best team
It's all Kirk's
is
fault. It's Kirk's fault.
Baker. Oh,
It's
it's
Kirk's
all
fault.
Kirk's fault now.
It's all Kirk's fault. Kirk did it.
You excited to bring him back as the most expensive backup in football?
No, I don't want him on my team anymore. It's
It's
like
like
I don't know.
it's
It's like
like it's like if you broke
it's
up.
PTSD.
It's like if you broke up with your girlfriend and got a new girlfriend, and then you're like, no, but I want you to just like keep living at my house just in
Yeah,
case if things
yeah.
don't
Keep
go
living
well.
at my house. Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I will say the Kirk move. I mean, we'll get into all this at a different time, but obviously it's not how you want it to go.
Let's talk about Mike McDonald, baby. I'm a Seahawks fan. I love me some Mike Mack. He made our defense so much better this year. We went 10-7. We missed the playoffs totally on a fourth tiebreaker. We went to the fourth tiebreaker to miss the playoffs. Um, we fought hard. We over he literally cut both of our starting middle linebackers mid-season, got two new ones, and the two new ones that he got like totally fixed our defense. And he turned everything around. Our defense was like top 10 in pretty much most metrics. Our D line was crazy. Our linebackers played great in the second half. Our young defensive players got better. Most of the issue with the team was the offense, which was extremely flat, predictable, and easy to stop at times, which is why Ryan Grubb got the boot today. And
Yeah.
Grubb had some good moments, but there were more bad than good moments. And we lost more games because of the offense than won games because of the offense. And that's just a fact. And maybe that's because we have to beef up the O line. But regardless, I want some experience in that building, and we're gonna hopefully get it with our new OC. I have a lot of trust in what Mike McDonald is doing on the defense. He's calling good stuff. He knows what he's doing. He's only going to get better as he gets more experience, I think. I'm going to say this is a B plus for me. We went 10-7.
Yeah.
We just fell short. Um, I like his initiative when he sees something wrong. Like he doesn't be like, oh, well, we're going to make it work. No, like he like changes stuff. Like
That's
Ryan
what Raheem
Grubb.
doesn't do.
Yeah, like Ryan Grubb was Mike McDonald's friend, and that's why he hired him. And then Ryan Grubb went a different. You were talking about how Raheem Morris like doesn't say anything. Mike McDonald is a straight shooter. Like he's a straight shooter. Like if someone's not doing well, like he'll just straight up be like, we need to be better.
I
Like
wish.
and then when Ryan Grubb got the boot today, he went on a radio show like literally 15 minutes after it was announced that he got fired, and he went on and was like, he wasn't doing a stuff on offense that I liked. Like that's what he said. He's like me and him didn't agree on offense, so I fired him
Yeah.
because I'm the head coach. I love that about him. I think the players love him, and I'm really excited to see where things go. As an outsider, what do you feel about Mike McDonald?
I think he was a good hire. I do think he was the right hire for you guys, especially looking back at it now. Um, I don't have as much intel as you, but all I know is that he's a good young guy. That's what he is. He's a good young coach that's gonna hopefully lead you guys for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I feel. Frankly, I think that Mike McDonald pumped some life and some new things into a team that was run by a 72-year-old. I mean, I don't know, you'd think it was like the White House, the way that they were just like old white ass dudes walking around just calling shots.
You know what the Falcons have to bring back? We have to bring back Dean Pease. That's
Hey,
a, that's
you
that's 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 the key. That's the key to everything.
is he gonna be head coach? Head coach Dean
Yes,
Pease?
head coach Dean Pease.
Yeah. I love Mike McDonald. I'll die for Mike McDonald. Uh
Yeah,
I will go to war for him.
I wouldn't. I
Let's
wouldn't do the same for Raheem.
talk about the Falcons.
All right.
Let's talk about them. I was going to talk about the NFL draft order, but if you're listening to this, you know what teams are picking what spots. You know,
Yeah.
let's talk about the Falcons. Aaron spent a day yesterday yelling at the TV as
Yeah.
Bryce Young put 5 touchdowns on the board,
Dotted us up.
like he was playing Old Dominion at Alabama or something. It was just like domination. And then
Yeah.
you have Michael Penix going out there, playing a good game.
Pretty good
Uh,
game.
but and then you're watching Baker go out there. Looks like the Saints had him for a little bit. It really did. And then it just kind of the floodgates opened. It got to a point where, like, pretty much at the same time, you're like, oh, well, the Bucks are going to beat the Saints and the Falcons are going to lose to the Panthers.
If that would have happened, that would have been so bad. At least the Bucks won
Yeah.
because the Falcons are already known for losing enough. Um,
Would you
but
say
yeah,
that
I
the
mean,
Falcons are a losing franchise?
absolutely. We are I think we are a definitively bad franchise.
How many franchises do you think are worse than the Atlanta
our
Falcons?
our our franchise record is 398, 512 and 6.
Oh boy. I wonder
Like
if I
like
could look up like NFL franchise
we
winning percentage and see where
we
you
haven't
see where you
had a
rank.
winning season since 2017. Um,
Yeah, NFL teams all-time winning
it's
percentage.
so bad. I mean, go back to like the 60s and the 80s. We were just always, every 3 or 4 years we have an 11-5 team, or now I
Oh
guess
my
like a 12
God.
and 5 or
This is
yeah,
bad, Aaron.
yeah, I know.
So, just for comparison, the Seahawks rank somewhere in the middle with a 51.7% winning percentage. The Falcons. All right, Aaron, we're going to play a little game. I'm going to say it's franchises. You have to tell me whether you think the Falcons have a higher or lower winning percentage than those franchises. Okay.
Yep,
The Titans.
lower,
Correct. What about the Cardinals?
lower.
Higher.
No
You
way.
guys you guys are at 43.7, they're at 42.2. All
Oh,
right.
you're saying if we have a lower win percentage?
Yeah. Whether you think you guys have a higher or lower win percentage than
Oh,
that team.
I thought we were doing like if we, wait, so the Titans are a better franchise than us?
Yes.
All right.
It gets worse. The Cincinnati Bengals. Are the Falcons higher or lower?
Lower,
That's correct. The Houston Texans, higher or lower?
higher.
You are higher by
Yeah.
0.7%.
No,
The New
because
York
that's not fair. The Texans have been around for like 5 years.
the New York Jets.
They were good with like Namath. So maybe like that's like carrying their team. but they haven't been good in like 10 years. Um, Higher. I
Falcons
think we're
higher or
higher.
lower?
I
You
think we're
guys are
higher.
below the New York Jets.
We're below the Jets. What rank are we?
You are you guys are the fifth lowest winning percentage.
Who's below us? Like the Browns?
It's the Bucks, the Cardinals, the Jags, and the Texans.
We own the Bucks.
The Bucks are by
Like
far the
our
lowest. They've won 40% of their games,
like
but they also have two Super Bowl rings. So,
the Falcons are such a bad franchise. Like Steve Bartkowski's numbers retired with the
do you know who
Falcons.
who has the highest?
Packers.
Close. They're second. The Cowboys.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought if anything, it would be like the Steelers.
The Steelers are kind of middling. The Dolphins are high. The Bears are pretty high up there because I
We
guess they
should
were
bring
good
back
like
we
in
should
the
bring back
30s.
Mike Smith.
Mike Smith. Yo, the
Yeah.
Mike Smith reunion is gonna go crazy.
Mike Smith wasn't really like he was better than Dan Quinn.
You gotta bring back that Southern dude, Jerry Glanville. You gotta bring him
Who is
back.
Jerry Glanville?
He was
Oh,
the
he
coach
coached
for like
in the
those years of
90s.
Dion. Yeah.
Oh, him. His
Yeah.
nickname is the Man in Black.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
All right.
nickname. Good nickname.
Good nickname.
You can't
But
really call
going
Raheem
back.
that nickname. You can't really call
um,
Raheem that nickname. It's not
yeah,
gonna work.
yeah. But going back to this year, there's a lot of hope, a lot of promise this year for this team. Um, obviously you have the breakout Bijan and Drake London season. Um, if they hadn't already broke out enough during their time. Um, Bijan 1,400 yards on the year. Uh, we had exactly 2,000 rushing yards, Algier and Bijan combined. So that's something to look forward to. You hope to have that running back core there for a long time. Um, yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic. If we didn't, I'm gonna say this. I'm not the biggest fan of Terry at this moment right now. But I will say, if we didn't pick Penix, we would be in a really bad spot right now with his team. Um, so I'm happy with that, and I'm happy that we have some hope going into next year. And we have a good young core of guys that we can build around.
Fair enough. Is there anything else you really want to talk about? You have any final thoughts here?
The Giants are stupid for not firing Brian Dable, and
I would agree with that.
that's my note. That's my last
Maybe,
note.
maybe we should finish with like you talking about a completely asinine topic.
What
Like
is that? I
every
don't know what
like
that word
like
means.
like every podcast. Like no, like every podcast we should end it with like a 5 minute segment of you like breaking down like a random event or
What
or,
happened
or,
today?
or like a random moment. Here, Aaron, can you pull up on this day history and give me some notes because you are a history expert, as we all know. So you should be good with this. You should just know this off the top of your head, right? Yeah, I mean,
Well, something extraordinary did happen on this day in history.
something
Uh,
something. I mean, I don't know if you would call it extraordinary,
well, not well,
but
no, well, not
something
not extraordinary, but
something
something
did happen on
something
January
did happen
6th
on
for sure.
2021. You have the U.S. Capitol riot.
Yeah.
Um, 19
Well,
today in
yeah,
1975, Wheel of Fortune premiere for the first time.
that's a big one.
Um, Joan of Arc is born in 1412.
What else happened? You got to come on. You're an expert. Give me some stuff here. Give me some
Uh,
really
uh,
interesting stuff.
I'm trying to think. I think Theodore Roosevelt died
Oh,
in
really?
1919 on this day. Yeah.
Think
Um,
deeper.
New Mexico joined the Union. That's what happened.
Oh,
They
nice.
they joined the Union.
Nice. That's interesting.
Um, Jedediah Smith was born, I believe,
Jedediah Smith?
uh,
Wow.
today, in 1799. Man, I'm really trying to think right now. Um,
He's just
today,
scanning his brain. He's just scanning his brain right now.
yeah, I'm really trying. Uh, Today in 1777, George Washington set up his winter quarters in Morristown, New Jersey.
Dude, that was pretty cool, I
So,
guess. Can you give me a just, give me one last thing that will really just blow my socks off.
in what way?
Like from today in history. Give me one last thing
All
that
right,
really just
this is one of the biggest things that's ever happened.
ever.
Today today in 1067,
Ooh.
Harold II was crowned king of England.
Wow. Can you move your mic
I have
closer? Because
to
then I would be able to hear it.
Harold this Harold Harold II was crowned king of England today in
Now moving a little bit
1066.
further, a little bit further away.
Harold II was crowned king of England.
Wow. Wow, that is crazy.
Look him up. He was a looker,
Harold the Second.
or slash Harold Godwinson.
Let's look up Harold the Second before we sign off here. Let's have a moment for Harold the Second, everybody. Um, oh wow, look at him. He wasn't. You said he took the throne in 1066.
Yes, I don't believe he was king for a long time. Oh, he was killed at. He held the crown for 9 months,
Yeah, I was gonna
and he
say he
died at the
died on
Battle of
October 14th,
Hastings.
the Battle of Hastings. Ladies and gentlemen, take that away. That was today in history with Aaron
That
Belcher,
was today in
everybody.
history. Yep.
History expert
If you
Aaron
go to,
Belcher will be back
if you
next
go to,
episode with more
yeah,
facts.
yeah,
So yeah, I think that'll be it, right?
yeah,
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Good time talking about some sports, the Falcons mediocrity, breaking down Black Monday, the playoffs, first year coach grades. Good time all around. I think everybody's thrilled. Everybody's excited
yeah.
about passable ball knowledge, where
Passable ball
we can
knowledge.
tell you some stuff about passable balls.
Yeah,
That's what's important. If you know about
yeah.
passable balls and you know what goes on with them, you'll be in good shape if you listen to us
Maybe this will
about
lead to other
passable balls.
sports.
Maybe this will lead to other sports. Badminton is really breaking out.
Badminton, pickleball's big now.
Pickleball's big. Maybe we should do
Um,
a podcast while playing pickleball.
yeah, we have to buy those portable mics that we clip on our shirts.
I can my broadcast teacher has some of those. I can just grab them. Shout out Mr. Larson if
All
you're
right,
listening.
cool.
All right.
All right.
Everybody, that was Passable Ball Knowledge. I'm Sam. That's Aaron. We'll see you next time. Stay tuned for Aaron's history knowledge next week. We'll see you guys next
Yep.
time. Peace out.